What's up? What is the best chess opening for white? As Donald Trump used to suggest, you need to build a wall, in particular, the Great Stonewall. And no, Mexico won't even have to pay for it, so why not? Jokes aside, the Stonewall Attack is a great opening that I used to play a lot when I was around 1800 to 2000 rating myself, with a lot of success. It's simple, it's a universal setup, and it is aggressive and unknown by your opponents. What more can you ask for from a single opening? Let's dive right into it. Initially, let me share with you the main setup and the main plan, and after that we'll go back and I'll explain you different ifs and different common ideas. Right, so you start off with the queen's pawn move, pawn d4, and after black plays d5 or whatever, we don't really care because we're gonna build the same setup anyway, you continue with pawn e3, knight f6, again, or any other move, doesn't matter, bishop d3, part of our plan, and here, at some point, you're gonna play pawn f4 and you're building this pawn wall, and which gave the Stonewall name to this opening variation. The idea of white is that this wall really locks the position. Black can't really do anything. Black can't push e5 anymore. This bishop is kind of dull, and overall, nobody can really get to your territory illegally. I mean, I'm overextending the joke, but it's still relevant. While you have this excellent square on e5 for your knight, which gives you a lot of attacking opportunities in the middle game. For example, c5, c3, and after that you castle, and at some point you land your knight here to this great outpost square e5, which dominates over the position. Black can't really do anything against it. If they ever take here, that makes things worse for them. Now you attack all black's pieces, you have the new f-file for your rook, so that clearly doesn't help. Let's go back. After knight e5, black just plays bishop b7, and then black is kind of stuck here. It's unclear what black is going to do here, but you have a lot of ideas of how to attack black's king here, thanks to your space advantage on the king side, thanks to this dominant knight. In this game, white decided to choose the boldest way possible, pawn g4, just going right after black's king, trying to push g5 and drive this knight away. Black played knight d7 himself, but now g5 anyway. White is perhaps planning something like queen h5 takes h7. Black tried to play f6 to finally get rid of this annoying knight, but they missed another combo. Bishop takes f7, and after that, queen still comes to h5, check to the king, and then g6, locking the king, and there is no defense against queen h7, checkmate. Now, what an interesting game. By the way, it's the game between two players. White player is rated 2100, black player is rated 2300. Although it's a blitz game, but anyway, you can see how easy it is to attack with white, and how even an experienced opponent playing black can suffer playing seemingly natural moves and can go down really easily. So that's why this attacking system is so powerful. Alright, now let's slow down a little bit. Let me explain to you the reason behind the moves and how you should build up this wall. So we start off with the move pawn d4, the queen's pawn move. After that, black will usually respond knight f6 or d5, that doesn't really matter, we're gonna play the same way, pawn e3, after black goes knight f6. Now you could play f4 right away, but we prefer to play bishop d3 first, because we want to secure that our bishop controls this diagonal. We already know that in the middle game, we really want the bishop to stand there and to attack black's king after it castles kingside. Therefore, bishop d3 is really a very useful move to play. If you play pawn f4 right away, that is playable, but there is a chance that black will play bishop f5 himself and will take control over this diagonal. We don't want that, so before playing f4, we do want to play bishop to d3 ourselves. After that, black goes something like pawn e6, and now playing f4 is perfectly fine. You took control over this diagonal, playing f4 is fine. It is considered to be a little more precise to play knight d2 first, because that way you also control this square e4 so that black can't ever place their knight there, because you control twice, so you're going to simply win it. That's why I play knight d2 first. Again, it's not super critical, but that's considered to be a little more precise. If black ever plays c5 attacking your center, you simply defend it by playing c3 and you're still all good. As soon as black plays something like knight to c6 or bishop d6, the move that provides some control to this e5 square, so that black potentially is ready to push e5 and break your center, we want to lock the position by playing f4. And anyway, you gotta play this move because that's part of your setup. We delayed development of our kingside knight because we did want to push our pawn forward at some point, so now it's the perfect time to do just that, pawn f4. After that, black develops the bishop somehow, we play knight f3, black castles, we castle just as well. Black will need to develop their light square bishop somehow, bishop d7 or maybe b6 and putting it there. Doesn't really matter, knight goes here to e5. Attacking this knight on c6, overall a very strong knight. If black ever takes it, we just recapture, and now this pawn is still annoying. It attacks black, gives you even more space advantage. The knight has to go somewhere. This diagonal is controlled by white's queen, therefore the knight can't go there, possibly, and therefore the knight will have to go back. Also, notice how prudent it was for you to put your knight here on d2. Now black can't go here on e4 because we control this square, so we're going to simply win it. We're going to win the pawn here after this exchange. That's how your knight on d2 really helps in some variations. Let's go back. So here after pawn takes, black will be forced to retreat, and after that now you have the new f-file for your rook. Black's knight was pushed away, so we can bring our queen somewhere to g4 and even to h5, just threatening queen h7 checkmate. And your attack is really smooth here, something like g6, queen h6, and now you're gonna continue attacking maybe with knight f3, g5, and finally queen takes h7 checkmate. Very simple, but very hard for black to stop it anyway. Going back a few moves after you landed your knight here to e5, attack this knight. We already know that taking here on e5 is rather bad for black. That's why they'll probably play something like bishop b7. And now we're reaching the point where we kind of begin playing the middle game, and it's time for us to attack. There are many ways for you to do that. You can use this position of your pawn to f4 to lift one of your heavy pieces to the king side. You can lift your queen f3, and then land it to g3 or h3, and from there it's going to attack. You can use the similar maneuver with your rook. Rook can go here, f3, h3. You can just push your pawn forward as we saw in the previous example, but of course you gotta be a little bit careful because that still exposes your king as well, so you gotta make sure that your pieces support this advancement enough. If you aren't sure what to do, the best way to start with is to lift the queen here, because queen is the strongest attacking piece. In the 99% of the cases, a checkmate is delivered by a queen, and therefore it makes sense to bring it closer to action. So you play queen f3, and then you consider, moving it somewhere there. Very often black will start, try doing something here in the center of the board anyway. Let's say knight d7, or knight, the other one to e7. I'm not sure what they're going to play here. Maybe knight e7, okay, they do play this, trying to just keep this knight closer. In that case, man, now your position is really solid. You can go for this g4, g5 push, driving that knight away from f6. As soon as they move it back, the knight no longer defends the square h7, and you can attack this by playing queen h3 together with the bishop. We simply threat queen takes h7 checkmate. Black goes something like g6. Again, you have a lot here, a lot of options. For example, queen h6, you can occupy this weak square, and after that lift the rook here and queen takes h7 checkmate. If they ever try to drive your knight away, you've got this typical combo, knight takes g6 and bishop takes, still threatening checkmate, and you completely blow up the position here on the king side, queen takes, and then finally you lift the rook, but this time that'll be a checkmate actually, in addition to engaging the rook into the attack. So again, you see how smooth your attack is, and whatever black tries, you always have something to counter that and to keep pushing. Now we're about to move to Q&A, where I'm going to answer some of the common questions that students ask me about this opening, but before that, let me make a quick announcement that right now you can join one of my flagship courses, the Grandmaster's Positional Understanding. We're going to keep the doors open for several more days for more students to join, and after that we're going to begin studying this course together. And if you enroll, you can get access to me, to our close community of students. You can get a 50% discount and some awesome bonuses. Students from the previous cohorts who studied this course in the past got a lot of great results that they even never thought possible for them, such as, becoming title players, becoming a state champion, national champion, even the world champion in the amateur division. So if you're interested, once again, you can click the link below the video, check the description, and decide if that's something that you'd love to join. Coming back to the Q&A about the Stonewall Attack, one of the questions that people ask me is, what if black pushes pawn c4? Well, that happens. First of all, of course, you gotta tell your opponent, Danivat, merci, gracias, thank you so much, and you just drop your bishop back. The point is, nothing really has changed. Your bishop still operates along this diagonal. The only thing that changes is that this pawn no longer attacks your center, or pawn on d4, no attack, no problem. Okay, the other question is, what if black captures on d4? For example, somewhere in this position, what if black captures here, pawn takes d4? Ideally, you'd love to recapture with your e-pawn, and once again, you can be thankful to your opponent for forcing this exchange. Now you have the new e-file, where your queen or rook can operate in the future. Also, your dark squared bishop has a little more breathing space. In the event of some potential exchange on e5, let me try to show you what I mean. I don't mean to say you're gonna play knight e5 right now, but just to show you the idea. In the event of some potential exchange in the future, your bishop is going to become extremely active right now, thanks to black forced an exchange on d4, and you no longer have this pawn on e3. Therefore, this exchange, generally speaking, is great for you. But there is one thing that you gotta be aware of. Sometimes when your opponent takes here on d4, you just cannot recapture with your e-pawn because this one is hanging. Such as in this position, black can simply win the pawn. You don't want that, definitely don't want to lose a pawn. So if you cannot capture with your e-pawn, then you have to recapture with the c-pawn, but that's still perfectly fine, because basically the position didn't change too much. Overall, things remain to be more or less the same. We're going to have the same development. Black ever goes knight b4, that also doesn't change things too much. You just drop your bishop back, and then you play a3 and kick this knight away. If black tries something, whatever, you play a3, knight has to go back, you can bring your bishop back, and again, we have basically the same position. Black castles, you castle, after that, you still land your knight on e5. Black has this open c file, but they can't do anything along this file anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. We'll still leave the queen there. If they try, I don't know, knight d7, you play queen h3, hitting this pawn, which is no longer defended by the knight. If g6, as we already know, you've got, sometimes queen h6. Another strong maneuver is to bring your knight closer to the attack. You can play this knight to f3, and after that knight g5, threatening queen takes h7, checkmate. Also notice there's one really common blunder in those positions. Some of your opponents will play pawn f6, thinking that it attacks the knight and forces you to trade here, but instead that actually blunders this pawn over here on e6, which is attacks the king, attacks the bishop, attacks this knight, and black's position is just falls apart right away. If you have any other questions, feel free to post them down below and I'll try to follow up and answer them. If you want to join the current cohort of students joining the course, The Grandmaster's Positional Understanding, you may click the link below the video or somewhere on the screen and join us right now while it's still available. And take care, have a great rest of the day, I'll talk to you soon.